Hello, everyone. How are you all doing today? As you can see, I've got my assistant today, Elise, because there's a little bit of a cold going through the house. I've got a cold. Elise has a cold. Elise's mom has a cold. Elise, sweetie. You can see she's not feeling very well. And she really wanted to see her daddy right as I was about to start my webinar. So I just thought that everyone would get a chance to see Elise today, and Elise could see some of you. And I just wanted to give her hugs because she asked me for hugs right as I was about to start. And so hope you all are doing better than we are. We were at a party on Saturday where there were a lot of kids, and there's just a cold bug that's going around. So I've got a bit of a runny nose. I'll try to manage that the best of my abilities today as I'm presenting to all of you. And Elise wanted to be here and hang out with me for a little bit because she's not feeling very well today. So I hope you all are doing well. I'm excited about today. I'm also a little mixed about today because honestly, it's like really nice to be here with all of you in this weekly rhythm we've had for the last 2 months. And today is going to be our last webinar where we're going to talk about what we're creating for afterwards. And so, oh, I know, sweetie, I know. Oh, Elise, I think it might be really nice for you to go and see Mama. Yeah, Elise, go see Mama, sweetie. Go see Mama, sweetie. There you go. Yeah, Elise is having a hard time feeling sick, partly because she's really healthy, so she doesn't get sick very often. And so she's learning how to deal with that. Yeah, she'll be okay. You know how it goes. But yeah, today, what we're going to be talking about is where do we go when this learning journey ends, and what is it that we've been creating? And we've really got a good sense of this because we talked a lot in the last 2 weeks about the Regenerative Project Incubator and what the different elements of it are that will enable us all to collaborate with each other and co-create to run better projects. And that the value exchanges between us and our social interactions are really what constitute a regenerative financial system. And so we're practicing regenerative finance by learning how to see the different kinds of value that are created and stored in our relationships with each other and with landscapes so that we can create dynamic flows of living systems through them. And what I want to talk to you today is something about the temporal pattern of this, about how we can take what we've been building and what we've been practicing here and give it enough stable structure to move forward so that we can connect it back to the larger community and support these kinds of activities on an ongoing basis. And so with that said, I will start the presentation in just a moment, but I'm noticing that just poor Elise is feeling so upset. I hope she's not making too much noise for us in the background. And I hope she feels better too. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Here will be the webinar for today, which is titled Evolving Beyond the Learning Journey. Now, the thing I think is really important for us here is that we're all moving into a future that is kind of like starting a new day, that what happens between now and wherever we get to next will be unexplored territory, things we've never done before. And we want to move into this future together, gathering what we've learned, going with our friends, and feeling strengthened and fortified by doing this in a collaborative way. And I want to remind us how we started this learning journey 2 months ago. I don't know if you remember this slide, but I named that our task for this learning journey is to create models of economics that are based in the real world. Because most of what is called economics, and what I mean here is the policies that are created and what is taught at economics in economics programs, is mostly based on discredited information that was discredited decades or even a century ago, and is profoundly unscientific and disconnected from the real world, which is part of the reason we're in the predicament that we're in right now. And so we need is to create models of economics that are in the real world in our relationships with each other and with the more than human landscapes and biodiversity that our survival depends upon. So we have been practicing this in the last 2 months in this learning journey, and I feel like we've come a long way. I hope you guys feel that way too. And you might recall this slide from a few webinars ago, that the story of the learning journey that we are on really goes back in time to previous activities, which is that the Earth Regenerators network, this platform, was created as a study group starting in December of 2019. And then in March of 2020, there was an articulation of the Earth Regeneration Fund, which was a webinar and a set of discussions. And it was really just theoretical. There was nothing in practice. But then starting in December of 2020, we began creating a prototype for bioregional regeneration in the Barichara region in Colombia, and that we were modeling the aspects of the Earth Regeneration Fund that we think people need everywhere. And as the work group for the Barichara Regeneration Fund was being created, this seeds campaign emerged to connect us to the cryptocurrency of seeds and to weave the seeds community of people and projects together with the Earth Regenerators network of community and projects. And this is what enabled us to create these really interesting, thriving interactions and dynamics between us in the last 2 months in this learning journey. And of course, the structure and flow of the learning journeys was live webinars with 2 different community calls. And the idea at the time was that there would be these little project teams, like they would just roll out. You can even see in the way I drew this picture that it looks like each project team is an isolated bubble, a little ball bouncing off in its own direction. And that just goes to show you that when I created this slide for that webinar 6-7 weeks ago, that I didn't know what the relationship would be between the project teams. That hadn't emerged in my mind yet. And that's because it emerged through this learning journey as we discovered what it was we're actually doing. And so as we were preparing for our work together, it was so obvious in hindsight that we were weaving people. And by weaving people, our projects are not really separate. And so our sequence of events was that we would plant the seeds of community in the first week. We would let everyone know that one of the best ways to learn regenerative finance is to learn how to be pro-social in a functioning and effective group of people. And if we pay attention to how people are effective when they're in groups, we will see ecological flows of value created and stored in different parts of ecological and social systems. And by seeing this really clearly, we could begin to apply what we were seeing to the real world. And that just led quite naturally to the idea that the Earth Regenerators platform, which gave rise to this learning journey course and its various activities, would also give rise to a project incubator. And the project incubator is exactly these dynamic flows. Self-aware, mindful groups of people comprised of self-aware, mindful individuals learning together how to do regenerative work. And you may recall from the slide that I produced a couple weeks ago that what we want to do is create a support ecosystem. That if someone has a project, they can host it or they can invite people to join it. If you don't have a project, you can join someone else's. And you can give feedback and advising, and you can engage in collaborative design. And what you may remember from when I gave this slide is that these were like bullet lists because we didn't know what would be the activities, how would we structure the way that people come together and facilitate this process. We had to discover that by prototyping, by practicing in action what this project incubator might look like. And that's how we learned that there would be 4 key activities or offerings of the project incubator, and that the learning journey would flow through giving rise to this project incubator. And then afterwards, as we start to look into the future, we want to try to maintain a sustained capacity to keep these activities going. And so we named that there were 4 key activities that the project incubator would do. One is that it would promote the formation of advisory circles, where people would gather together as peers, as equals, and they would sit together and they would give each other advice and support about their projects and about their development as human beings. When there were shared problems or struggles that might get identified, then this would lead to the creation of the second activity, which was design sessions, which are facilitated activities focused on a theme or a problem or a topic that many people share in common across their projects. And then, of course, we would discover that there are really valuable kinds of knowledge and skills, frameworks, and tools that different members of the community, they know how to do them and they could teach them. So that members of the project incubator would begin to offer teach-ins, which is what I role modeled last week with the webinar with a teach-in on Pakaka-Cha and how to engage in strategic narratives. And the sort of underlying all of this in a little more relaxed way is that we would just set up office hours. There would be a person who's at the project incubator that at any time, if you have a question, you could just contact them and schedule a time to talk, or drop by at a time you know they're going to be there and just have a chat about whatever's on your mind. Now, these 4 activities together would help us to cultivate human capacities, and it would incubate, accelerate, and strengthen all of our projects. And this is the idea of 4 activities that we want to sustain moving forward as this learning journey comes to an end. Well, because this is our last weekly webinar in the learning journey, because this is going to be 2 months at the end of this week, this is time that we can celebrate all that we've accomplished, our new friendships, our new knowledge, our abilities to collaborate with each other, the projects that have emerged or that have become improved by our time together. But also, it's a time to say goodbye to this form of our way of relating to each other. And I really like this quote from Winnie the Pooh where he says, "How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard." That it feels like if we were to lose what we've had in these last several weeks, that it would really be an unfortunate thing, because we have these great friendships, these people who support us, these people who help us be valuable and find purpose because we can be supportive to them. And that we're all acting in service of things we care about. And unfortunately, it's still a rare thing to be in an environment where this is the kinds of relationships that are common and prevalent. And we want that to become more common and prevalent. We want more people to have this experience. So we're not going to say goodbye to those key elements. We're going to try and keep them going in a different form. And this is a moment to recognize that we have an opportunity here with what we've cultivated in this learning journey. And then when we look back from sometime in the future, we'll be able to ask ourselves, did we miss this opportunity? Or did we take this opportunity to do something bigger than we could do on our own? Because right now we have about 100 people enrolled in this learning journey, a little bit more, closer to 120, and maybe 50 or 60 really active people who have been participating in one form or another throughout the last 2 months. And as we've been building trust and friendship, getting to know each other, finding ways to be supportive, we're discovering so much more capacities that we each have to bring to the table, and that we together have capacities that are scarcely believable to us as we experience them. So the opportunity that we have is to put what we are building in this web of relationships, to put it into service for what is happening on the planet. And I want to remind us what's happening on the planet. And you guys may remember this slide from, I think this was the first week of our webinars that I gave this slide during the kickoff of the whole learning journey, where I named that there were 4 key planetary Earth system processes that are all going through abrupt catastrophic change. That the blue ocean event, when the Arctic Ocean no longer has ice during the Northern Hemisphere's summer, is going to have a cascading, turbulent effect on the entire planetary climate system. That the melting of the permafrost in Siberia that is releasing massive amounts of methane right now is going to have an explosive effect at accelerating and intensifying global warming. That the Amazon rainforest is already heavily fragmented and surface area deforested, which is going to cause the biotic pump to shut down and the Amazon to collapse, causing large swaths of this 40-million-year-old forest to become grassland and savanna. And then, of course, the shutdown of the conveyor belt of the world's ocean, which pumps heat around the planet through the water of the connected ocean system. That if enough fresh water is dumped into the North Atlantic Ocean, mainly from the melting of ice from Greenland, that we could actually have rippling and volatile changes in the climate system from that as well, including an intensification of warming and volatility for our weather systems. And as all of that happens, we remember that we're now in the midst of peak oil, supply chains are being disrupted, there are global pandemics, conflicts over resources, lots of propaganda and misinformation campaigns, various kinds of totalitarianism and authoritarianism, and on, right? There are so many things that are part of the predicament of our global system that we have to somehow address quickly, strategically, and for the long term. So addressing them quickly doesn't mean that we bring a Band-Aid and drop it on the planet in the next year. It means we set in motion an evolutionary process that gets to work right away and that can be sustained through the rest of the collapses that are guaranteed to come throughout the rest of this century and the decades ahead. I only share this slide to remind us that this is why we need to engage in regenerative design together. This is why we need regenerative financial systems. And this is why we need to incubate regenerative projects and cultivate regenerative leaders and weave us together to make us as strong as we can be. It's very important, and there's no time to waste. So what's beautiful is our learning journey gave rise to a project incubator, and we've now named 4 key activities that are very concrete and manageable, and we believe we can sustain their capacities. So what do we do as this learning journey comes to an end? Well, the answer is, offer the next learning journey. That can include participants in this learning journey and anyone else out there who wants to join this community of learning with us. And we already have the topic for the next learning journey, and it's one that's related to how Earth Regenerators got started back in December of 2019. Many of you will remember that Earth Regenerators started as a study group for my book, The Design Pathway for Regenerating Earth. Well, the next learning journey, which I'm about to announce to the entire Earth Regenerators community, is going to be called Living into the Design Pathway. And what this means is, if there is a design pathway for regenerating Earth, which is to create regenerative economies at the territorial scale with bioregional learning centers in each territory and forming a network of bioregional learning centers and bioregional regenerative economies across the planet, that if we're going to live into that design pathway, we have to know how to live. We have to engage in regenerative livelihoods. We have to raise our children in regenerative ways. We have to have regenerative finance, regenerative economics, regenerative education, regenerative arts, regenerative technology, and on and on. Living into the design pathway is what we've been practicing in this learning journey by working in small groups to feel what is it like to be in a nurturing environment where we can engage pro-socially with each other and create regenerative outcomes. But what if our project spreads out to encompass our entire life? Then we are living a regenerative life. And this is what people need to learn how to do. This is what we all need to learn how to do. I'm not claiming that I've got it all figured out myself. My family is pretty far along in this journey, but we're nowhere near where we need to get to. And we're not going to be able to get there without help from a lot of other people. Here's what's interesting about this next learning journey, is we're going to create the next learning journey with the project incubator already in place. Whereas this learning journey that's coming to an end gave birth to the project incubator. So as a result, the participants of the next learning journey can join the project incubator during the learning journey and afterwards, which is going to help us build the sustained capacity for the incubator itself. That those of us here who are already practicing being the incubator will welcome as ambassadors and hosts, because we have more experience knowing how to engage in these activities, we'll be able to invite and support the on-ramping, the welcoming, the inviting of more people into this project incubator. And we'll be inviting those specifically who are joining a cohort of the next learning journey that want to learn how to live regeneratively. And so this is a way of seeing that we're feeding forward what we're creating in this learning journey and feeding back into what we're creating here, what will be created in the next learning journey that will start in about a month and will also be 2 months long. I wanted to share this with you to show us that what we're doing is building momentum, building capacity, and weaving tighter threads between us as each of us becomes stronger as an individual person and as all of us become stronger together. And this is a way of thinking that the design pathway is like a thread that is filled with many individual strands, and as they become woven together, they can survive great hardships, which we know are already happening in some parts of the world and are coming very quickly to other parts of the world. So this is what we see emerging from this learning journey and moving back into the larger community to take all of us forward. So what does that look like in practice? What comes next? Now, this schematic timeline is not meant to tell us how we're going to predict the future. It's telling us how if we set our intentions and we work well together, we can create, we can shape the future that emerges. Because here we're talking about a timeline of the next few months. And what's interesting is that we start with end of May and beginning of June with what we just described, which is that this learning journey is birthing a project incubator. And those of us here who want to continue learning together will engage in these 4 activities. And this is going to enable us to give rise using the project incubator as a relationship to the next learning journey to grow the size of our community and to strengthen, improve, expand, evolve, change. We're going to get better at being a project incubator. And if we do this in the next couple of months, then what this will allow us to do is have the Earth Regenerators platform be integrated as a project incubator, that the ecosystem of people and projects will increasingly and continually weave with each other. And here, there's an interesting double entendre, meaning I'm using something to say 2 things at the same time. Earth Regenerators refers to both the platform on Mighty Networks, which has almost 2,800 members, but it also applies to anyone who wants to participate in the regeneration of Earth, whether they're part of that platform or not. Because we've said all along, it doesn't matter which branded community you're a part of. This applies to the Seeds Network. This applies to ecosystem restoration camps. This applies to the work of the Common Land Foundation. This applies to many, many different groups. All permaculture projects on Earth are already part of this. We just haven't integrated them. So what's interesting is to see that if we can create a project incubator that supports a vast, diverse ecosystem of Earth Regenerators, then this ecosystem will bring supports to people doing Earth regeneration wherever they are. And what we want to do is have this capacity in place by the end of this year to enable regenerative projects to arise and regenerative leaders to collaborate with each other and create new projects as time goes on. And so you can see that we have an arc of time here for the next half year to put in place a set of human capacities woven together that allow us to live into the design pathway for regenerating Earth. I want to take a moment and recognize how this is possible. It's been possible to do this because there are 5 of us who step forward as volunteers. None of us have been paid to do this work. We're all doing this purely out of service to something larger than ourselves. That PJ, Penny, Jeff, Tyler, and myself, we feel honored. And I say this truly on behalf of everyone in the host team, because every week when we have our Thursday calls, we're like, I'm pinching myself. How am I with such a great group of people? And how am I getting to be part of this exciting process as we're all learning together? And our host team, I just really want to give thank you to all of them. I want to say thank you to PJ, to Penny, to Jeff, and to Tyler, and say there's no way that we could have done this without you. And what we're going to do next depends on you still, but in new forms. And so what I want to show is how we're role modeling the project incubator coming into being as we step out of our co-facilitation role, because the learning journey is going to come to an end, and we're going to take on different roles suited to each of us and where our passions are and where we are in our own personal journeys, to enable us to participate in the creation of what comes next. So Jeff has said that he really wants to help all of you create advisory circles. He was acknowledging in himself that if someone comes to him with a problem, even if it's one he's never thought about, he's so prepared with vast knowledge of solving problems in the past and different frameworks and tools that might apply, that he discovers that every time a friend asks him for help, they thank him afterwards and they feel good that they came to him. And he said, if this is a gift that I have and just the person that I am, then please come to me with questions about your projects and I'll help you design how you might tackle them. And we recognize that Jeff is role modeling what it means to be an advisory circle as an individual advisor. So he can help you as an advisor. And what this means is, as we set up the project incubator, you can reach out to Jeff personally at any time you'd like, and he'll make time to help you. But also, he'll go one level higher and help you create an advisory circle. If you can go to him for advice, you can set up an advisory circle from other people in the incubator as well. And he wants to help this happen. And I think it's wonderful that Jeff is stepping into this role that really will help him shine. Tyler has said that he wants to keep hosting the Seeds office hours because he's really getting more engaged in the Seeds community and also related projects around decentralized governance and how to set up autonomous, decentralized organizations. And so he wants to keep hosting the Seeds office hours, but at the same time, as an ambassador of the Seeds network, he is also a mentor to other people who have been trained as ambassadors for the Seeds network that are just getting started. And so what he's doing is he's working with members of the Seeds community to invite other people to share this role in the future. What you could think of this as like a help desk from the Seeds community to support regenerative projects in Earth Regenerators and to build relationships between people in one network with the other so that we have a sustained and ongoing social dynamic between us. So it doesn't matter whether you call them organizations or not. What matters is the human relationships are interacting around the support of each other, and that we're going to recruit people from the Seeds community and also the Earth Regenerators community over time to hold office hours for the project incubator. And so I think this is a great role for Tyler because he's really helping explore alternative economic models in the Seeds community. Is going to continue learning as he does that. And he wants to bring the knowledge that he's gathering from so many other wonderful people he gets to interact with. He wants to make that available to all of you. Penny is in a little bit different place, but one that I think we can all relate to, which is that as someone who has a lot of experience designing pedagogy, managing projects, and facilitating groups, but at the beginning of this learning journey, and you can ask her, she'll tell you, she said, I want to help facilitate this because I don't know much of anything about regenerative finance. And what she's realized as we've gone on this journey is she actually knows a lot more than she thought. And she's had an experience that for her was nothing short of transformational. At the same time, she spent a lot of time online in the last 2 months, and she really feels the need to deepen her connection with nature. So she wants to take a little time to strengthen her nature connection and come back to the community afterwards, strengthened by the experience that she's gained in this time with us in the last 2 months. What I think is beautiful about this is this time for integration and deep personal inquiry. I see this as fundamental. Meditation and mindfulness practices are essential, as are nature connections. And so I feel great knowing that Penny is practicing the wisdom of making this time for herself so that we will have her cultivating these capacities wherever they land in the Earth Regenerators community afterwards. What I want to do, as you've probably all seen by watching what I've been doing in the last 2 years, is I want to actually build the design school for Earth Regeneration. And that's why I'm preparing to launch this next learning journey. And I'm inviting a hosting team to help us make it happen and to weave it back into the project incubator. I'm also very excited that some key aspects of the Las Albercas land here in Barichara are starting to evolve, and a possibility is opening up for us to begin negotiations and start fundraising for the land. And so I'll be able to tell all of you more about this soon, because I'll write up a description and an invitation for this living case study, as we called it a couple weeks ago. Just want you to know that what I'm going to do moving forward is lay the groundwork for this bioregional design space in Barichara, Colombia, and also for the digital network for people on Earth Regenerators, continually weaving it back to the project incubator and all of the participants in this learning journey. So I'll be here for all of you in these roles as we move forward. What PJ wants to do is he wants to host the Regenerative Project Incubator. I don't know how many of you know this, but during the time that PJ has been facilitating the weekly Zoom calls for the community here in this learning journey, that he was also finishing an MBA, a sustainability-focused MBA at Bard. What that means is he was really busy, and he was still making time to be of service to this community. And he just graduated and finished all of his coursework in the last 2 weeks. So congratulations, PJ. This is awesome. We're so glad that your time is freed up to focus on what you really care about. And what PJ said is that there's nothing he wants more than to create a regenerative project incubator interwoven with relationships that are thriving and pro-social. So he's going to be seeking support to serve him in the community in this role for the next 2 months. And I'm going to have more to share on that soon, and we can talk a little about it in the Q&A. But I just wanted to let you know that our intention is for PJ to play an active hosting role for the Regenerative Project Incubator as a whole, as the rest of us weave our parts around it. So we've come a long way in the last 2 months. We went from articulating that we wanted to give birth to real-world projects that make real-world impacts, and that we would live into regenerative finance. And look how far we've come. And look how far we still have to go. So what I say here is, let's get into a discussion about all of this. And of course, we'll have time in the community calls this week as well, as we wrap up this part of the learning journey. And what I want to say is, let's do this. It is time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And onward, fellow humans. So, how does it feel to say, like, we're actually doing this? Like, we're not just talking about doing this. And I know it's like we spend a lot of time looking at a screen, talking to each other through our computers and our devices. But what we're doing is building relationships that can last a lifetime. And what I think is really beautiful is that this community is already real. There are several people in this cohort that are here, like Alan Lipshin, who just posted all those applauses in the chat box. Alan is one of the people who went through the Community Regenerators cohort, as are other people here. And Jeff has been involved in the curriculum design, as have other people here. What's interesting is we have a community of people that goes back 1.5 years together, and some of us in a more like interpersonal friendship level going back a lot further. And what's becoming possible is we're building infrastructure and capacity for launching regenerative projects and birthing regenerative livelihoods as we learn together. So what I'd love to do is use the rest of our time today to really clarify any questions you might have, to invite your enthusiasm, your feelings, your thoughts about how we move forward. And because this is our last webinar for this learning journey, this is our chance together to create a video archive and the recording of this webinar to share with others what we did here today. And what I think is going to be powerful for us is to realize that we didn't know when we started this learning journey that this is what we were going to create. But as it became evident week after week, by feeding forward what would happen through a cycle of webinars and community Zoom calls, and then having the host team digest what was happening and ask, what is the elegant next step? What we saw each step of the way led us to here. And so we really did create this all together. And so what I'd like to invite is questions and comments about how you see yourself moving forward. And one thing I'd love to just invite you to, oh, I see Midi has a really nice question for us. I'll get to in a moment. But what I'd like to invite each person to reflect on is how do you see your personal role in this project incubator moving forward from here? And if you have a sense of what your answer is, write it down in the chat so everyone else can see, and come ready to discuss it in the community Zoom calls. And what Meaty has asked, which I think is a really great question, is can we hear from each of the host team what support you may need from us as we move forward together? And what I'd say is, let's answer that question by seeing who in the host team would like to come on the screen and share. And maybe anyone on the host team that would like to share, just drop a comment in the chat box and I'll invite you onto the screen, because I think that's a beautiful idea. So is there anyone on the host team, Penny, PJ, Jeff, or Tyler, who would like to come on the screen and share how you feel about this learning journey and what support you might need moving forward? And I would especially like to invite PJ for the role that he's stepping into and the ways we're going to try to support him. But I want to invite all of you. So would any of you like to share? Just drop a message in the chat box and I'll invite you on the screen. No? Anybody? Penny, PJ, Jeff, or Tyler would like to share how you feel about being a host? So Jeff is saying he's not really prepared, but sure. Well, Jeff, I'll go and invite you on the screen. And we don't need to be super prepared, do we? Wait, how do I invite you onto the screen? How do I do that? I don't know how I can do that. Uh-oh. I guess, Jeff, just drop in and say I can share under ask a question, and that will activate my ability to invite you onto the screen. So just go under ask a question and say, I'm ready, and then I'll be able to invite you. There we go. Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. Quick little hack we just did there. Let's see if this works. Jeff's coming on the screen. Well, coming in. There you are. So yeah, Jeff, tell us, what would you like to share with the group today?
Well, hi. First of all, just I wanted to share how, as part of the host team and part of the community facilitation team, it's really, whether or not y'all realize it, like y'all have been the facilitators, like the questions and the energy brought into each session. It's really helped us tune our intention into action, because, often, we'd have an idea about what we'd be sharing and we just go with the flow. And, every time, it's like surfing the set, right? Like the waves would come in and then there'd be, oh, here's the one we're going to ride today. And it was just a real joy to, to witness what came forth, at least, in our group, and then reading in the updates from the other group. It was just like magic, and it was a pleasure to be a ride along on that. So thanks to every one of you for bringing yourselves into the experience, because without that commitment that each of you made to show up and participate, we wouldn't have an incubator forming. We wouldn't have any of this. So this is a true co-creative effort, and it's humbling and pretty awesome to witness how it's coming together. And from my perspective, like I'm in one of the, probably a lot of you can relate to this, like you show up and do what you do, but you don't really know how to name it. And, I experience this a lot, where evidently people like talking to me. I never know what I'm going to say beforehand. It just sort of, I allow the moment to emerge, through the conversation. And I kind of feel like that's what I'm offering is, you don't necessarily have to have a fixed agenda or clarity about what you need advice on. Like I will be presently setting up, I don't know if it'll be a Calendly or some one of those types of, look at my calendar and grab a time type of a thing where you can come and grab a slot. But you don't necessarily have to know exactly why we're going to talk. Like we're just going to step into a space where we're going to see what comes out of it. And that's sort of the the beauty of, to me, regenerative finance and offering advice in regenerative finance is that, in complex systems, the fractals, spread out at the edges, and you can't really plan how they're going to emerge. They just sort of do what they do. And so we're just going to hold that space for whatever is being called forth through you and your project idea, and allow it to, show up and set its pattern in motion, and then we'll just take it from there. So what I need from y'all is, take advantage of it, and, send me questions or get time, or, test me. I don't know what I know, so I don't know what you need, but, there's some sort of magic that happens when we wave that magic wand. So we'll see what comes out of it. And, I invite you to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I wanted to add a partial answer to the question of how can Jeff be supported, because Jeff and I have been good friends for about 10 years now. And what I've seen over and over again is Jeff is like the over-prepared. What I mean over-prepared is he knows a bunch of stuff. He knows more than you need to know about whatever you're going to be working on, but he doesn't know which piece you need. And so one of the elements of his struggle has been, how do I actually feel useful with all of this knowledge? How do I bring it into someone's context where they need the help? And how would I market that? And what we're doing is we're making it easy for Jeff to not have to market it. Just come to him and he'll be here. And word will spread about how good it is to talk to Jeff when you need help. And that's going to market him. And then he doesn't have to do it. And this actually solves a very important problem that he's had for a long time as just a didactic, complex, nonlinear thinker. And so I don't want to overemphasize how important that is, because each of us feels the significance of what's happening and we want to play a meaningful role. And for me personally, Jeff has played meaningful roles many times, maybe more than you realize, Jeff. But this is an opportunity to create a sustained pattern of that validation, and that, not validation as in his ego needs it, but just the validation that, oh, we know how to connect this and make it work. That piece has been a struggle. And I'm really glad to see us in a context where we can try to tackle that for you, Jeff. I hope this works.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Yep.
Anything else you wanted to say, or are you good?
Nope. If we had some super awesome Earth Regenerator catchphrase, I would bellow it out right now, but we don't. So I'm just going to say, we'll see you all around.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. Would Penny or PJ or Tyler like to share? If any of you would like to share, please say I'm ready in the ask a question box, and I can invite you on the screen. Are any of you ready to share? Waiting to see. PJ and Tyler are not here. Penny, would you like to come on the screen and share, or would you rather not? Either way is fine. That's okay. Then also, are there any questions that people have or any comments you'd like to make? Penny, well, we don't want to embarrass you. So yeah, are there any questions or comments? Or if you don't have questions or comments, maybe just in the chat box, share like how you're feeling right now. Give us some visual feedback of what's happening in the virtual room of this group of people. How are you feeling about this learning journey? How are you feeling about this session today? Just share your thoughts there. And you can also post a question or just ping yourself in the ask a question to say, I'd like to share. And then we could do that as well. So Gail is asking how to keep us active in the meantime. Gail, would you drop in the chat box? Would you like me to bring you on the screen, or do you want me to just answer that? Let me know whichever way you want. Okay, I'll invite you on the screen. Awesome. So how to keep us active in the meantime is a really good question. I think part of this is, what is the meantime? Right? Like, how much of a gap is there as we move forward? Gail, first, I'd just love to hear like your thoughts. What are you seeing in this? What is it bringing up for you?
Well, like for example, I think we're going to be presenting. Some people are going to be presenting their Pekakucha presentations tomorrow. We have 3 people in Group A who signed up to present tomorrow, and I did mine last week. And I've had an informal one-on-one with Diogo over the weekend, and he's like trying to set up a little team around what he's doing, and it kind of intersects a little bit with One Earth. So there's some informal stuff going on, but I don't know how long it's going to be till you start the next learning journey. And so it just feels like it'd be easy for things to fizzle out or to move ahead, or it just feels a little uncertain. And you know, I get so much energy. I mean, these are the highlights of my week, working on Earth Regenerator and One Earth stuff, those 2 things. You know, we still have our little website group going. I have to say, we haven't given up, and we are moving forward slowly. So that's good. But yeah, so I want to keep the energy going somehow in the meantime until something more formal starts up again. So I'm just wondering how to do that. Yeah.
Well, we're going to
That's,
maybe just mute yourself real quick.
yeah, and that's my bird singing in the background. But
I love your bird singing.
I forget where the mute is.
I've got it. I've muted. I'll mute you right here. The answer I'd give to this is something that JP Parker said to me when I was talking to her yesterday in the morning, and also something that PJ and I talked about yesterday, which is there's a very simple way to keep this going. And that is that someone invites people to gather at a fixed time and place. So like, if I were to say the advisory circle's on Wednesday at 2 p.m. and here's the Zoom link, simply by inviting the participation, we can keep the rhythm going. And I think this is really important, that as the learning journey comes to an end and we shift into project incubator mode, that we have a hosting of event activities each week that continue. So for example, the community Zoom calls could keep going, but they could keep going without the 2 people that are the host facilitators. It might be that someone says, well, I'll be the host next week, or one of the previous hosts says, I could still do it for a couple of weeks. But the idea here is that this can continue moving forward by simply inviting people into the shared space without us losing the momentum that we have right now. And then the other question you'd asked about, when is the other learning journey going to start? My intention is, my aspiration, I should say, is to try to launch it on the summer solstice of the Northern Hemisphere, the winter solstice of the Southern, so June 21st, which would mean that in about 3 weeks, which might be a bit ambitious, or it might be a month. But the idea is to announce it this week and start inviting people to enroll and have it start in 3 to 4 weeks from now. So there really won't be a big gap between this learning journey and the next one. And so, I don't know, how does that feel to you? I'll unmute your mic.
No, that feels good. It's not too long. And even if it's 4 weeks, it's not too long. Will you use the same time? Because these times work for us, you know, the people who have already been in it. I don't know about new people, but I could then reserve these times.
Yeah, that's something I'm going to give a little thought to, because it actually feels like if we do these learning journeys with a regular rhythm, keeping the times the same may work best.
Yeah.
And just to have stability and predictability. So my default is to say yes, but we don't have a team together that's made that decision yet. So I think so, and we'll decide soon.
And you know, I don't know if I can commit to being a host the way this last team has been, but if there's another way that someone can support, where maybe it's not 2 or 3 times a week, but maybe once a week or something, you know, think about that too. If there's other ways we can support, so it's not always on the same people. If there's different options, you know, I'm starting to dive deeper into seeds, and one thing I like about seeds, and I'm still not there yet, but is they have all these different roles.
Yeah.
So we may want to think about something like that too, and different ways to do the roles. So just putting that out there.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. Thank you, Gail. And I look forward to continuing in multiple forms in our collaborations together.
Yeah, same here.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's see. So I saw that Rafa had also question here, and I'll invite you onto the screen if you'd like to join me. It says, how do you see the new journey, contents, format, our contribution in contents and format, and how does it link with the future school and with the incubator? It'll actually be nice to have you on the screen for this because this relates nicely to how you and I played together in the work group before this learning journey started, which is, yeah, I know, which is like, we didn't play together as much as we'd like, which is the whole point.
Yeah. My bad.
You had a lot going on. What I see happening in terms of content is really to describe what the idea is of having a design pathway for regenerating the Earth. Like, what is the big game that we're all playing together? So the group that's in the cohort has that shared understanding. And then we begin to explore different domains of our lives and how to live into it as life choices. And so the content is going to be co-created like this learning journey was, where we have an idea of what we think will be the content, and then it turns out to be fairly different from that and better than what we thought of, because we'll co-create it with a feed-forward kind of approach. But one thing I'd be curious to hear from you while I have you here is, what do you find as like a pull for you with this idea? This is like pre-marketing, I guess, like market research. But tell me, like, if you were to participate in this learning journey, how would you like it to continue from what we've already done here and from your other experiences? So I'd love to just hear your thoughts about that while I have you here. And I can unmute you if you're there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I have, is it noisy?
Yeah, but it's okay. We can hear you just fine.
I have 2 kids. It's a bit crazy, but well, the question I have is more about who would I push next. Like, I did part of my journey, and I will go on with my project and the project of someone in the group supporting them and stuff. I don't think I would embark in another learning journey, even if probably I will. Even if it happens, I can feel it. But I'm thinking, who would I suggest to do that? Like, for instance, I was just talking to my best friend in Norway. She's super lost, and she was like, I feel the contradiction of the life we are living, and but I'm lost. I don't know how to change all this, and what should I read? What can I study? Who should I talk to? And so I would definitely tell her, look, this is starting now, go there. Yeah, so it will be a little bit, it will be also a mix of the previous experience with the design pathway, all the discussion group that I wasn't part of about your book.
Yeah, so this is one of the pieces, is that the book is actually being published. It'll come out as a printed book at the end of August. And one of the ideas that we have a group of people talking about how to promote the book and what the purpose of it is. And what we've come to is the purpose of the book is to help more people become Earth Regenerators. It's not to sell the book, it's to get people on this path. And that the best way that we know from our experience in the last year and a half to do that is with book clubs. That if a group of people come together and go through the book together, they form really tight relationships with each other, with the discussion questions that are at the end of each chapter, and just with the topics that are explored. And so the book is like fairly powerful, fairly strong, and people like it. But what's really powerful is the conversation around it and the way people relate to each other when they have the conversation. And so the idea is to take that shift of focus from the book to the conversation and have that be a bridge to bring people into the Earth Regenerators community, where they will find the project incubator, and they'll find learning journeys, and they'll find other kinds of support. So that more and more people are held in a nurturing ecosystem of relationships so that they can make those life choices together with other people who are further along or are struggling with the same thing at the same time. And I see this as like the sweet spot is the more people that get to that place together, the more they're going to accelerate their personal changes. And some of them will even come together. Like, I'm going to come to where you live and we're going to work on a project together. And we already have one example. Well, I sort of have two examples of that. Alan Livshin went to Puerto Rico to do work there, where he expected Connor Heron to come as another member of Earth Regenerators. And then Benji Ross actually went to Washington State in the US to work with Connor, and they haven't gotten to Puerto Rico yet. And so there's this way that people are weaving their relationships forward in time. And I think if we do this right, we'll find ourselves in the company of fellow Earth Regenerators in the physical space, not just in the digital space, as time goes on. Either by recruiting those around us into the space or by relocating to the spaces where those people are. And we do it through our relationships with each other. So does that give you a better sense of what the intention is, at least behind this?
Yeah, at least I see the different bricks, how you see them together. And then I guess it will all feed into the school once the school is there.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's interesting is all of this is the school. So, you know, like, we're already in the school, it's just not fully formed yet. That's what's really cool about this.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
It's great. I want to be part of all this anyway. It's exciting.
well, what's beautiful is you already are, and there's just more to do. There's just more to do. So
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
so much to do. So thank you. I'm glad
Thank
you're
you.
here. I'm glad we're on
Thank
this journey together. Awesome. Bye. Are there any other questions or comments that people would like to share? So we're getting close to the time for this session. And what I think is really important is what Rafa and I were just talking about, which is how do we change together with the people that we're meeting on this journey? I'm not just talking about the 2-month learning journey, but our personal life journeys as we move further and further into regenerative culture. Like the way that my wife and I have made life decisions as we had our daughter and started changing our lives and who we interact with and how we interact with them. And that's been changing more and more as time has gone on. And then here in this online community, as we are interacting with other people that we met through these digital platforms, whether it was the Seeds community, ecosystem restoration camps, transition towns, a permaculture camp, whatever, wherever we're finding each other. As we find each other, how do we create these dynamic supports, these ways of interacting that make us stronger? And then as we get stronger, while we're interacting, we can actually help more people learn how to interact in that way as well. And as we do this, we're going to really build strength. And so I guess since there don't seem to be any more questions or comments coming in, what I'd like to do is just say that for me, this is like having all of you here on this journey with me is the best gift I can give to my child. So I'm thinking of how each of us has something other than ourselves that pulls us, especially in the dark times when we want to give up. And for me, I can't give up when I'm playing with my 4-year-old daughter, or go back in time when my daughter was 2 months old, holding her in my hands. And I knew a lot about what was coming with catastrophic climate change. And for Gail, with your 23-year-old daughter, I'm sure it doesn't change, does it? Just you keep doing it. And so for those of us who are held in that place, if we no longer feel alone, that's good. But if we feel empowered together, that's better. And if we are empowered together, it's not just a sentiment, it's collective action, then we're changing the world. And this is how it works. So what I want to say in closing today's session is that we're doing it. For the last 2 months, we have not been learning regenerative finance, we have been living regenerative finance. And as we're living regenerative finance, we discover money often doesn't even come into the picture. But when it does, it needs to enter in a way that honors those relationships that are keeping the thriving and the nurturance going. So that money doesn't get in the way, it enhances it. It enables that value to flow to where it needs to go. And if the money doesn't do that, don't let the money in. This is one of those interesting paradoxes, because so much of what we call money is actually structural debt leveraged against the future, destroying the present It's what most of our financial system is. Paradoxically, most money is not regenerative. So we can leverage extractive money into regenerative processes, but only if the social environment is prepared to receive it and to let it flow where it needs to go. And that's why regenerative finance is not primarily about money. And that's why we've talked so little about money in the last 2 months. And I hope from all of our experiences together, as we've given birth to an ecosystem of support, and as we strive to maintain it, that lesson really rings true in our lived experiences day to day from this moment forward. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being our friends as the hosts and enabling us to be in this rich, thriving environment with all of you. And let's keep the work going. So you've got the community Zoom calls this week. We're going to set up a rhythm of continuing activities moving forward that will have a slightly different format. At the same time this is, then those activities will either overlap and be separate, or they'll be scheduled at different times. So we'll figure that part out. But either way, reach out to me at any time, reach out to the other hosts at any time, reach out to each other at any time, because we are in this together. Thank you all, and let's keep rolling forward. I'm so excited to be here with you. So thank you all and goodbye. I'm gonna go check on Elise and see how she's feeling with that cold that she's got. And I'll see you all very soon. So love and blessings to all, and deep gratitude from my heart. Thank you and see you soon.